Party people, welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I'm your host as always, Jeff Stormer, and this week on the show, I'm joined by Mike Rugnetta for a game of Catch Me If You Can. Mike is a writer, host, producer, and sound designer who's been working in digital media since 2007. Currently, he is the producer and host of Never Post, a podcast for and about my favorite and least favorite thing in the world, which is, of course, the internet. It's a bi-weekly show that covers a range of stories of what's happening with, to, and on the internet, and looks at those stories through a contextual lens of how we as people relate to one another. You can find Never Post wherever you get your podcasts, or check the show notes for more information. You can also hear Mike as the GM of Fun City Ventures, a fully sound-designed cyberpunk narrative play RPG podcast set in a post-climate catastrophe New York City circa the year 2102. You can, of course, find more information about Fun City, Never Post, and everything else Mike's got going on in the show notes. Catch Me If You Can is a GM-less, narrative-based duet role-playing game based on the questions, what is a criminal if not the mirror image of a detective, and what is a crime if not the setup for its investigation? It is about the cat-and-mouse chase between detective and criminal told through the story of their one final confrontation. It's simple, it's effective, it's fun as hell. We had such a great time playing with it. I think you're going to have a great time listening to it. You can learn more about Catch Me If You Can in the show notes. And with all of that said, let's go ahead and throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. I'm really, really excited. This game has been a while in the making. I'm so excited. I'm sitting down with Mike Rugnetta. Mike, thanks so much for coming on Party of One.
Jeff, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. Yeah, it took us a little bit. We finally did it.
I'm stoked, especially because I've been thinking about this game and I've been thinking about the back and forth here for a while, and especially as I was rereading everything today, I really felt the energy come back, and I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be so much fun.
Oh, that's really exciting.
Before we dive in, why don't you take a moment and let our lovely listeners at home know about anything you've got going on that you might want them to know about?
Sure. Let's see. Where do I start? Hi everybody. My name is Mike Rugnetta. If you aren't already familiar with me or my work, I make a podcast about the internet, called, Never Post. We actually just had our first birthday, which was really fun. We talk about the internet. What are we working on right now? We're working on, a segment about, how politicians can use Cameo as a kind of reputation laundering tool.
Oh, I really like that. That's juicy.
So that should be out. Our producer Georgia is currently working on that. She did her first interview for it today, and so that should be out sometime in the next month or two. And the piece that I'm working on right now is sort of like a love letter to the block and how great of a feature it is on social media.
You can't be on social media without it.
It's right. It's like, feature numero uno.
It is. As number goes up, block becomes better and better and better.
Yeah. And it's very much inspired by Blue Sky's implementation, which, sort of its reputation precedes itself as being, it's a really good block. It's a great implement. Block. Yeah. And I also make, maybe more germane to the interests of your audience, Jeff, I make a actual play TTRPG show called Fun City. That's in its, fifth year, maybe sixth at this point. And we've been playing the same story with a little diversion here and there for shorter campaigns, but the same story for most of that span. And we play Shadowrun. We play like a heavily modified version of Shadowrun. So for folks who know it, it's not nearly as rules intense as it is in the book. And we are unraveling this really big conspiracy in super future New York City between the police and healthcare and the government and all this other stuff. So it's like this big neo-noir mystery that the players are unraveling. And I'm the GM and the sound designer. And it's, very related to the game that we are going to play here right now.
Very much so. We are playing Catch Me If You Can, which is a game about what is a criminal if not a mirror image of a detective, and what is a crime if not the setup for its investigation. This is a game about a detective and a criminal unraveling each other's activities. So the detective is going to poke holes in the crimes done by the criminal, and the criminal is going to explain how they outwitted the detective at every turn. And then we're going to find out which of our two protagonists are walking away on top. This is a story about the final confrontation between cat and mouse, and one of them is getting got by the end of the story.
Standing on a rooftop in the rain, the thunder is rolling, the lightning is cracking.
The energy is here. We are so on. And let me ask you this: like, what is it that's got you excited about this game today? Like, what is it that pulls you towards this kind of story? You know, what's on your mind as we're sitting down at the table today?
I mean, I am a huge fan in general of detective stories, of noir, of neo-noir. I don't know that I'm like a true crime devotee, but I definitely really vibe with the sort of like singular character trying to unravel the mystery, following the breadcrumbs set by another singular character. And all of the sort of like characterization and process and all of even the cliches in those genres are things that I just really, really love. So it's, it kind of got me just from the picture on the cover, which is just this sort of like two mirror image silhouettes of a cowboy hat with a handkerchief over the face and then a noir detective with the fedora. Like, I'm sold right off the bat.
I feel really similarly reading through this game. I mean, and this is perhaps predictable of me. I feel like my listeners are going to hear this and go, yeah, Jeff, we know, stop talking about it. But no, I will never. But like, I think it's impossible to read through this and not get a little bit of Columbo on the back end.
Oh, absolutely.
That sense of the two, it's that really two-hander energy of just, we're each going to choose scenery in slightly different ways, and we're each going to like one up each other in that really extended back and forth. That's like the most satisfying thing, to just watch two characters sort of like bat around each other until one of them goes for the kill. That is always a thing that I am just thrilled with.
What is it? It's Mr. Policeman, I gave you all the clues.
You know what's on my mind very specifically as I was reading the game, and I don't. This probably won't necessarily come up in a literal sense, but one of the most like gripping sequences I remember is the opening sequence to the 2006 Casino Royale, 2008, the first Daniel Craig Casino Royale.
Yeah, sure.
When it's all in black and white, and it's the guy at his desk, and it just opens the door, and it's just him and Daniel Craig, and there's no like big elaborate thing. It's just them being like, so I assume you got past my bodyguard. Oh yeah, I strangled him in the toilet. And like that energy where it's so vastly different than everything else that comes after. That's where my head is at.
I have been thinking about, so I'm like 30 pages away from finishing the last Cormac McCarthy novel, The Passenger, which like, I don't want to spoil or ruin anything, but there's also like kind of nothing to spoil or ruin. So I guess if you're going to read it, like, just hum to yourself for the next 30 seconds, but it's sort of a almost plotless novel, where the main action is just the main character, almost just by mistake, or like not really trying very hard, but still succeeding in evading a number of mysterious federal agents. And he doesn't really know why they're after him, but he's still evading them. And it's really funny to think about the criminal and detective story from that perspective of the criminal that's like, I guess I will just slowly walk away and like go and do my own thing in my pickup truck. And like our paths will intersect every once in a while, but like you're either hapless enough or just a completely unknowable entity enough that you're kind of just this other absent force, or like physically absent, but still a pressuring force in my life. It's like such a weird and interesting inversion of this kind of story.
I love that. I'm really obsessed with this energy. All right, so let's go ahead and start fleshing things out. So what we're going to do, is one of us is going to play the detective, one of us is going to play the investigator, the other of us is going to play the criminal, and we're going to tell the story of a crime. The first thing that we really need to decide upon is like what kind of crime has been committed, and like what are the essential defining details. Everything else we're going to kind of spin up and play, but like the who, what, where, when, and how, like what are the basic things that we need to know. So I guess I'll throw it to you. Like, what kind of crime story do you want to discuss today?
Okay, so like a bolt of lightning from the blue, as I was coming to the studio to record this, I had an idea for a setting. So can I pitch you on a setting, and
Please.
you can tell me how you feel?
Yeah.
Do you take this and you do whatever you want with it? So my pitch is, we live on something called the grid.
Okay.
And what the grid is a massively large man-made structure that is in the middle of what is effectively an endless sea.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's like very much cobbled together, like girders, I-beams, metal structures, like all sort of like welded and sturdy, but definitely hand built. It's almost like an almost infinitely large like oil derrick. Just out in the middle of nowhere, ocean all around, all directions for as far as the eye can see. Is this Earth? Is it Earth? Is this the future? Questions I'm not interested in answering.
Totally. Yeah.
You know, we're people. We can be humans. So maybe that does answer the question. So maybe what this is like a post-climate catastrophe. I will join you in your, if my audience, anybody who knows that my things are listening to this are going to be like, Mike, shut up, like stop doing this. But like post-climate catastrophe, the seas have risen. Maybe, the earth as we know it is gone. It's underwater. And we live on this thing that is essentially like, it's a home, but it's also a hub of business. It's like a central location for like essentially salvage and probably at least a little bit of piracy. And that there is like a fleet of boats that everybody works on that go off into this sea to find things that are sunken at the bottom of the ocean, to find things that are floating around, to maybe have relationships with other grids that are in different locations, engage in some trade. All of which are placed where they are because we've basically uncovered like these vents of hot air. Mm-hmm. So you have steam power, and it's like a little bit. It's not very reliable, right? But it's enough that like what is essentially a floating city of people can live there. It's kind of that's as far as I got in my like 15-minute drive to the studio.
This is great. I hearing all of this, a pitch has been building in my head for both like a huge wrench to throw into the grid and also a crime that is committed.
Okay.
That I think is a big swing. So tell me what you think. What I immediately go to when we have this floating kind of barge ship, man-made structure gathering refuse in the oceanic apocalypse, my immediate brain goes to we found something. And that the crime is that something got released back into the ocean, and that something was found in the water, was alive, and had a power in it that is incomprehensible. Like we're talking like deep sea, the abyss adjacent, the thing adjacent, something weird and alien was uncovered, and we were holding it and studying it, and then one day somebody walked into a water tank, and that water tank was empty, and now it's like, oh dear, this thing, we don't understand what this entity was, but it's gone now, and it knows who we are and where we were, and maybe was in our brains. It's hard to say, but like that's my pitch, is that the crime is something got like whatever this entity was got released.
I dig it. What if, and I think maybe you said this, and I want to make sure that I'm understanding, and I want to make it explicit. Like, we want it back, and the reason we want it back is because we somehow figured out in the short amount of time that we had it before it got released or broke out. Well, I guess it would have to be released because that would be the crime. That it could solve some amount of the waning power problems.
That's really great. I didn't consider that, and that's really fantastic. Maybe just going ham here. My immediate thought is everybody on the stage, like the moment it got released or the moment before it was released, everybody on the station, everybody on the grid had a dream where it reached out and it was like, I can fix this. And then somebody pulled, which makes the act of pulling the lever and dropping it back into the ocean fascinating and violent in a very specific way. If this being reached out in our dreams and was like, I can fix the power, like I can fix the power supply.
Right. Or like gave everybody insight. A vision of like, everything's fine. Like you fixed it. It's good now. Everybody has the same dream. And then we wake up and it's like, we like this thing that we were studying and beginning to make contact. Like imagine if halfway through Arrival, right.
So we woke up and we had our little whiteboard with all of the writings on it. We were like, we're ready to go. We're the fucking alien. We're the aliens.
Like everybody wakes up in the morning all having had the same dream, and in all of the galleys across the vast expanse of the grid, the same like radio news item plays, and it's like the entity that was previously captured is mysteriously missing this morning.
That's great. That's really, really juice. There's juice here. There's energy here. I'm excited. Good. So we've got the visual here. The crime is the entity was released. I'm visualizing the place of where it was committed. My brain goes back to tank is the big cylindrical fish tank with blue liquid inside.
Oh, yeah. I'm solidly in like Metroid territory.
Yeah. Same headspace. Big tube with goop inside.
Yeah.
And it was here and now it's not here. That's the vibe. Great. I'm stoked. Which brings us to our next big question. We've established the crime. We've established the essential details. Do you want to play the criminal or the detective?
I think I want to be the detective.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
so we've got so I'm going to go first and explain how I did it, why talk through everything of why I did it, how I pulled it off. And in play, what that's going to look like is you're going to interrupt me and tell me the various obstacles that were theoretically in my way. As I'm monologuing, you're going to hit me with, but what about the cameras? What about et cetera, et cetera? And then I'm going to explain how I overcame them, and we're going to roll dice to determine if that was a success.
Great.
But first we need to both choose an archetype. Who is your detective, and what is the skill that they bring to the table? There's a long list here, and I'm looking through it to see if one of them really jumps out at me.
Yeah, I'm looking at we got actor, artist, athlete, author, bodyguard, celebrity, chef, doctor, engineer. What is my detective's mixologist? I feel like that's funny. That's really leaning into a certain kind of PI stereotype. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take a out of left field selection, and I'm gonna assume that like where we live on this structure, the whatever passes for law enforcement isn't seeing a lot of action. Mm-hmm. Like for probably a number of reasons. Maybe it's just sort of like, whatever, not my problem, or I don't get paid enough to deal with this kind of thing. Or maybe just like there's actually relatively little crime. And then everybody's actually pretty good at working together. Like everybody's really banded together to just survive in this really hostile environment. And they see the idea of committing crime just like, not worthwhile. So I'm going to assume that maybe my detective is really like spending most of his day doing paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am going to take the secretary archetype.
I love that. That's fantastic. Great energy. I've been thinking a lot about which of these like jumped out the most to me and which of these I think is the juiciest direction that I want to maybe run in. And I'm going to take interpreter, but put a spin on it very specifically. Because I think that I am in the world before, whether the world before was in the recent past or this is like a generational thing and like the old barest whispers, in the world before I would be something like a security analyst. I would be something like a real Jack Ryan energy in my head of like
okay.
That kind of that's the energy in my head.
Like a boffin with muscles?
Yeah, boffin with muscles is exactly where my head is at.
I love it. Great.
So like it's a lot of it's real spy shit. Boffin shit is exactly right. Like
what if brain with arms?
That's where my head is at. So that is, and because I think that there's such a compelling paranoia there, right? That I think I really want to probe at with this criminal. And so the last piece of our preparation is we are mirror images of one another. There are two stats that we have. Those are information, which helps us find blood splatters, muddy footprints, question witnesses, grabbing blueprints. And there's action, which is freeing yourself from a trap, chasing someone, escaping, hiding. We are mirror images of one another, which means that each of us is going to choose a dice associated with one of our stats, and the other person is going to take the opposite. So, do you want to choose what your information stat is or your action stat?
I'll choose what my information stat is.
Okay.
What are successes so that I am prepared?
There's two kinds of successes. If it is a simple action, if you're doing something easy, you want to roll above a 3 for a complicated success or a 5 for a full success. If you're doing something hard, you want to roll above a 5 or a 7.
Okay, so like if I choose an information of D12, I automatically get an action of D4, which means the only chance of me succeeding at a hard problem for a full success is if I do it with paperwork and roll perfectly.
That is correct.
Okay, so what am I going to do? It just seems so boring to go middle of the road.
It feels like this is Monster Factory rules. We want it Monster Factory rules.
Yeah.
We're cranking that slider all the way one way.
I think I am going to really lean into secretary and what I just said a few minutes ago, which is that this guy has not seen much action. And I'm going to say, information D12, action D4.
Okay, that means that my information is a D4 and my action is a D12.
That lines up, yeah.
That lines up really nicely, and that paints such a specific picture. That paints such a specific picture that really encapsulates the energy so nicely. So, all right, we have our characters. Let me see if I can think about a name.
Did I lose you? Are you there?
No, I'm here. I'm thinking
great.
about. I'm trying to. I'm trying to Google a very specific thing and remember what
nice.
the name of what is the other term for a black cudgel? I think is what I'm thinking of.
Like a blackjack?
Yeah, I was trying to think of like, well, there's another. I thought there was trying to think of like a different term, but I think cudgel is the other word. So, all right, I've got my name. Great, I've got my name.
Okay.
It's Cudge Wintress is my name.
Oh, Cudge Wintress. I'm going to do my normal thing, and I'm going to just Google the name that I have chosen and make sure that there are no serial killers or other. Okay, there is an artist. Interesting. All right, I'm fine with this. This is acceptable. All right, my detective's name is Daryl Stokes.
Daryl Stokes is a very good name. Daryl Stokes has a good energy to it. Okay, we have our characters. We have our crime. We have our archetypes. We have done all of our preparation, which means it is now time to begin the hunt. There are 3 phases of play: the crime, the chase, and the confrontation. The crime, I will start out and deliver my final monologue. As I lead the story, you counter with preparation and security measures, and then I will roll with the appropriate stat at the start. At each point in the story, if I roll a full success, the plan succeeds thoroughly, and you describe how the security measure failed. If I roll a failure, my plan is set back, and I must regroup and try something different. If we roll a complicated success, you roll for your countermeasure, and we decide who gets their way, but neither gets exactly what they want.
Great. And also, so that I make sure that I understand, there's no, like, I interrupt you when I think it's appropriate. There's no mechanic for deciding that.
Correct. That's correct. So we are in this tank. You have for reasons that you will reveal in the next phrase, determined that it was me. We have chased each other here, and I think we are back in the room with the tube, the observation deck, as we and I think Cudge is, as you enter, spinning in a chair, but not in the dramatic spinning back to you way, like not back turned to you spinning in the spy way. Like Cudge is at this point, I think, like pistol in hand, is like spinning in a chair, almost somewhere between elated and dejected, right? Like there's almost an air of exhaustion to his entire demeanor as you walk in, and just somehow I knew it was going to be you, Stokes. You're better than your workload makes you out to be.
Cudge, no need to pay me any compliments. I'm not going to go easy on you. You know I can't.
I wouldn't want you to. You'd have been a great soldier in another lifetime if they hadn't shoved you behind a desk, and that's what I respect about you. We should start with the dream. We all remember waking up that day. We all remember feeling it in our bones. A calming hand or talon or tentacle or whatever it gripped you with. A hand on the shoulder, and the knowledge that if we put our collective brains together, it would all be okay.
The lights flicker and dim for a second and then come back on.
I don't trust individuals who claim to have all of the final answers as long as everyone falls in line. That, in the profession that has been handed down to me, is the language of a dictator. And so I woke up with that warm, fuzzy feeling, but unlike, and I think he swings his hand, gun in hand, that little bit of like tense, swings the pistol towards all of the rest of the hallways of the grid. Unlike the rest of these amateurs, I knew to look past that feeling. And so I did what needed to be done. I pulled the lever.
Daryl looks so disappointed. So just like, this is both the most irritating and stupidest and most disappointing thing he's ever heard. Like fully, like limp neck, forehead down, not happy.
Getting into the holding facility was the easy part. All I had to do was say that I belonged in here, and a handful of quote unquote analysts, whoever we rounded up to talk to the entity, seemed to believe it.
Okay, now I'm going to interrupt, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
Great. But you have to pass through 4 security doors with an ID to get in here. I know that you know everyone here, but it doesn't matter. You still have to have the documents. You have to have the pass. And I'm the one that hands them out. Where did you get it?
I think Cudge smiles very wide. I didn't have to get it. All I had to do was whisper the right sweet nothings into the right set of ears. People are all too willing to help out a friend in need if he can mutter the correct science speak or corporate speak or whatever you want to call it into their ear, implying that this is of a great need and it's really just protocol. I'm just in a hurry. It's all about code words at the end of the day. Sometimes those code words just look like help out a fella with a quick favor. And I'm going to roll. Do you think I can call this feels like a stretch for languages, and I'm willing to just roll a d4 unless you feel it.
Are you kidding me? I love it. I think it's great.
Okay, I'm going to roll 2d4 here. I'm going to add them together. Do you think, in your hands, is this an easy or a difficult action? Is this easy or hard?
I think based upon how you are playing this character so far, I think that for him, this would be easy.
Okay, great. 2d4. That is a 5 exactly, so that is a full success.
All right.
And I think, like, sensing, I think at this point, Cudge is almost going on the attack. His body language has changed a little bit because I think that he sees Daryl's belief in the in the security systems and in the more literally the system, and leans forward like, you want to know how I got in? Charlie used his key card and said, oh, you'll get me on the next one. And Clarissa said, oh, it's fine. Buy me a drink at the commissary later. And in exchange for a quick scan of the retinal scan. And Malik said, I'm going that way anyway, and happened to walk down a hallway. I just had to follow 2 steps behind because the door closed in 3 steps. That's how I got in. The problem is always the people, not the system.
As Cudge is listing the people who let him in, you see Daryl take out like this old waterlogged, like got wet and dried 1,000 times notepad from the vest that he's wearing. And he just writes down each name as Cudge says it, and he slips it back into his pocket.
Great. Excellent. Excellent. So before I knew it, I was past all of the security systems and I was into the lower decks. And once I was there, it was merely a matter of...
I mean, but you had to hide. We have patrols. We have security. There are eyes everywhere. So you get past, sure, a couple of your friends, but then you have to go down... It's miles of hallway to get to here from where you can enter this part of the facility. And you just sailed right through.
I'm gonna roll here before I answer. This is, I think, an action roll. And I'm gonna go. I think this is probably even for Cudge's established skill set, this is probably hard because I think as he's like smiling, he's like, "That's right. I just walked through," and that is a 10. That is another full success. And like he's smiling, and we see as he kind of subtly doesn't say it outright. He's like, "Yeah, I just walked through. It's not difficult when you are good at the things that I'm good at." And as he's walking, like we see a security guard walk up and just effortless action movie neck snap slides into a broom closet, walking through. People here, the crew here, are trained in big flashy firefights. If somebody knows something harder or faster or quieter, you find the gaps in those skill sets very easily. And that's what I do. It's what I've always done. I analyze, I spot, and I exploit. Those are what I do. Those are what I'm good at. Miles of hallway and patrol upon patrol is just a series of puzzles to be analyzed and exploited. And is still, I think is there's an energy to the way that he is moving where it is simultaneous. Like there are these moments where his chest is puffed out and he's you can see his finger like stroking the side of the gun and like clearly in a moment of like clearly emphasizing like I am a walking god. And then there are these moments where he gets in and goes, honestly, I wish it was more of a challenge. Once you get in here, it's just a pretty basic series of commands. Now, granted, I had to get to the computers. That's a challenge, I suppose. I had to, I am not a programmer, which means that I am out of place at the computer consoles, but nobody really asks once you're deep enough in, people tend to assume you have a reason to be there. And
Daryl points at two terminals that are across the room from one another. The room is maybe like 20, 25 feet across. And he says, there's a password protected terminal here where you need a key code passcode and a card, and another terminal over here where you need a key code and a card. And in order to open that, and he points at the tube and he sees for a second, it's still open, and you can hear just barely the sort of like howling of the distant wind and water that's beneath the grid. And he says, you're just one person. There's no way you could have pushed the simultaneous release for this tube by yourself.
This feels right, and there's an intentionality to this play that I think is very fun, because I can't necessarily think about how this character would use languages or use like a knowledge of languages to get into to exploit this. So I think I'm gonna have to roll a d4 here and just kind of wing it. Is this an easy or a hard task, do you think?
I think this is hard.
I think this is hard as well, which means I'm guaranteed to fail this, which is extremely satisfying. I rolled a 4, which is my best case scenario. And I think that we see, as he's explaining, we're getting these sort of quick hit flashbacks, and we see Kudge trying and kind of like that. We see that effortless facade fall away in the moment, and then we flash forward to the chamber. It was tough. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a great system. Honestly, you and whichever security personnel put that up, you should be proud. I, conversely, am not especially proud, and I'm going to take another approach and re-roll here with a D12. I'm not especially proud for what came after. That is another 10. That is a full success. And kind of walks over, kicks the edges of the door where there are clear like burn marks, and like the door is hanging open because it cannot close because it is like off of the rail, like off of the track. And we see anything like chuckles. I really thought I was going to get through there quick and quiet and subtle and spy-like, and I was going to be, the cool, effortless, badass walking through tunnels, and I was going to flick a button and the entity was going to get sucked into the ocean and we were never going to run into it again. Turns out that's not the case, but It also turns out if you cross just a few wires in this facility, turns out the grid, albeit isolated and lacking in a lot of the amenities that we might hope for, is certainly not lacking in shoddy wire work that if crossed together in just the right way,
Daryl puts his hand up and he pulls out a radio, and he very quietly, like he pushes the button on the radio and he sort of tilts his head down and he says, "The security system in the containment has been shorted. Please go make sure that all of the gates are still closed in the kennel, because I know that it is run in series with the wires in here." And then you hear like a muffled voice come that you don't really understand from the radio. And then a couple seconds pass and you hear someone go, It's chaos! And you hear just dogs barking in the background.
I think he kind of gestures towards the radio. There's your answer to how I didn't get noticed when the explosion happens, which obviously as a professional, you were going to ask me next. And so there I was, the facility, the entity in front of me, and I could feel it. Daryl, have you spent a lot of time in that room with the entity?
Cudge, you know what I do every day. You've seen my desk. You walk by it most days. You know the answer is no.
Then you cannot possibly comprehend the feeling of having it sit in your brain. You hear it. It speaks to you. But it's not another voice that is speaking to you. It is your own voice, because it has latched onto the diodes in your brain, and it is pulling those electrical impulses, and it is conducting your own brain like a symphony, so you hear your own voice speaking to you as another. And it gave me every sweet promise and pleading glance and assurance that it could save all of the grid and even the adjacent grids, and that we could build something that went beyond all of us. And you know what I think when I hear those words? I think those are bribes, and that if you could do that, if the entity could have done that, the entity would have already done that. This was not altruism. This was a ransom notice.
But you don't know that. You can't know that. You started off your little spiel talking about how you freed us from a dictator, from a single entity that would have controlled and made decisions for everybody here on the grid. And Cudge, you became the dictator. You made a choice for everyone. Listen, was I in here alone with it? No, I was chasing after you. But I had the same dream everyone else did. Was it weird? Yes. Did I like it? No. But listen, I know I'm old. I know I don't have long left. But I believe in what we're doing here, and I want my family, I want your family, I want everybody who's here to survive. And that is getting harder and harder every day as the vent gets cooler, as the pressure goes down, as we run out of power. We have a whole hospital section of the grid that is running at 16% capacity. 16, Cudge! And you just said, no thanks. You just said no thank you. You made a choice for everybody. You said no thank you. Without listening to the experts, without letting them do any tests. Is it scary? Yes, I understand that we're scared. And he's like getting mad, like he's clenching his fists, and he catches himself for a second, and he takes a deep breath. Listen, okay, I want to go back just 2 steps, and then I want to ask you a really important question. Maybe it doesn't have anything to do with how you did it. But first, I want to know where is Scarlet? And he points at the chair that you're sitting in.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I am going to roll. I think this is going to be the final. This is going to be my final roll, I think, or this is the final action of the fates. Cause I think, and I'm going to roll a D4 plus language here. And I think what it is, I'm going to roll D4 plus language. Cause I think what he's saying here is Scarlet is asleep in her bed right now. All right, I think let me step back because I think because in case if this fails and I have to go a different direction, I think Kudge is like, Scarlet was here waiting for me when I came in. I knew if I was going to push that button, it was going to have to be her signature on the dotted line. And I'll tell you something, Daryl. She said the exact same thing that you did. It's almost as if there was a script. It's almost as if something put a script into both of your brains.
Here we go.
Here we go. Yes, here we go. And so I tried. Yes, good. I'm so glad I rolled that. I tried to get through to her. I tried to speak to her in a language that we could both understand. I tried to tell her what I was seeing so clearly, and just like you're not listening, she didn't listen. Fuck. Okay, great. It doesn't matter if that's an easy or hard action roll. That's still a failure. Fuck yes. So I tried. So I made some decisions. I'm not proud to say that when words didn't work, I tried to fall back on action, but God damn it, to her credit,
where is Scarlet?
And I think he walks over and pushes a button. And Scarlet like falls out of a closet and runs over and just starts like decking Kudge repeatedly. And he's just kind of like half-heartedly throwing up hands. I shoved her in the closet. I grabbed her hand. I put it on the thing and I shoved her in a closet. Gee, aren't you supposed to protect me and something? Can you get her off of me?
Daryl is very calmly counting down from 10.
Oh.
4, 3, 2.
I hate you so
1.
much.
He slowly walks over and he says, Scar, and he pulls her off.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Do your job.
Oh, God, Daryl really looks like he wants to take a swing at you, but he doesn't.
And I think he stands for a moment as we move into phase 2, the chase. I think he stands and smiles and goes, so why you? Why none of the bloodhounds that were already patrolling? I believed in you the whole time, but I'm curious, what brought you here, Daryl?
He puts his hand up and he talks to Scarlet for a sec. He's kind of whispering. He's like, you sure? And she nods. He goes and he presses a keypad on the door and it slides open and she walks out. And he like looks you in the eyes and he says, give me that. And he points at the chair.
And I think one-handed slides it over in your direction, spinning as it comes closer.
Daryl's got like a piston where one of his legs at one point was, and the chair sort of like spins around and makes a weird curve as it does, and he kind of like struggles to grab it and he catches it and it's really awkward, and he like puts all of his weight on it and it kind of slides around and he finally sits down and he goes, I've been running around all day. Because I did not need this. None of us needed this. I was at the desk this morning, early, like I start every day. And I was talking to Mathis about the visions, about the dreams, about whatever you want to call them. Whether or not he thought it was real, whether or not I thought it was real. His wife thinks it has something to do with crystals. I don't know.
There's a lot of I was surprised by how prevalent the crystal theory was. I know that
they think is it the same as the moon theory? I can't keep it straight. I don't know. Anyways, and then the alarm went off.
It sure did.
What do I do? What do I do when the alarm goes off? I assume someone else is going to take care of it. Because someone else always takes care of it. So I sit there and I think, well, something's going on. I'll eventually read in the feed what it is.
And then the second alarm went off. And then the third alarm went off. And before you knew it, it was chaos all through the grid as about a dozen minor infractions all spiraling with every single one of your peers running this way and that way. It's almost as if somebody knew to overwhelm your facility to clear the way that he can walk into this facility.
Mathis has to deal with the dogs. Carmody has to deal with these bodies that show up. I don't even know who these people are. Sullivan is dealing with power outages. And so then the commissioner comes to me and he says, hey, can you walk down to containment and figure out what's happening?
I'm trying to think. I think I would like for this to be a role. I think because I think he kind of leans back and goes, "Of course they handed it to you. Nobody had any idea what was going on because it was manufactured chaos. So I guess I'm wondering how you, seeing this play out, saw through the noise and understood what was actually happening."
Okay. I'm going to say something that maybe contradicts what I just said.
You can
figure it out in the edit.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Sorry, just thinking about 1 sec.
Yeah.
Commissioner comes to me and says, can you figure out what happened in containment? The first alarm was for a breach, but I can't see anything. I'm looking in the cameras. I don't see anyone. I'm looking in the cameras. Everything seems normal. Can you go down there? And I say, yeah, sure. I'm not going to go down there. He looks at his leg. So I go to the feeds. I open up the feed for the camera in the room. What do I see? I see that thing, whatever it is, and I see Scarlet scratch her nose. And then I see Scarlet scratch her nose. And then I see Scarlet scratch her nose.
That's great. Yep, that's good.
And then I see Scarlet scratch her nose.
That's really good. That's really good. I think that this is an easy action, and you tell me what you're rolling.
I rolled a 5.
That's it. That's great. Full success.
Yeah. Do we think that is that's information? That's not
feels
action.
Information. That feels extremely information.
Okay. Great. Just making sure. So I try to turn the feed back on, and I can't. I can't get in. The power keeps cutting out. I don't know. Is it something that you did, or is everything just broken? The answer doesn't matter. And it turns out I do have to walk down because I have to see what's going on. We know how much fun that's going to be.
What did you do about the bodies? Surely you would have found the decoy corpse. The one left behind to spark a shocking murder investigation would have distracted everyone from the exploded door and from the quietly draining fluid and the entity exiting the facility.
So I start my stroll, knowing this is going to take as long as it takes, knowing probably that I'm racing something, I just don't know what it is. After about 25 minutes, I'm not even at the security door yet, and Carmody pulls me into someone's quarters, and he points at a body on the ground. And he says, "This is... what... Do you know who this is? No one has seen this person before." And I get close, and I flip him over. Oh, wait, hold on. I rolled the wrong dice. I've lived here my whole life. I was born on the grid. I'm going to die here. I can tell you that much. And I also didn't recognize this person. But I recognized something about them. Deep lines on the face. Dry hands. It's a rigger from one of the salvage boats. How did you get someone from one of the salvage boats onto the grid, and why did you sacrifice them for this plan?
You have to know as well as anybody that for the right paycheck, you can get anything off of a salvage boat, even the body of one of the riggers that didn't make it on the last voyage.
Oh, Jesus. Of course. Well, I guess that probably helps your conscience a little.
I mean, any trade, I'm not a monster.
Okay. Well, we're sort of in the process of figuring that out right now.
Fair.
Either way, I let Carmody know, because what was holding him up was that they couldn't get him in the system. They were scanning his fingerprints. They were scanning his irises over and over again. They even did a dental exam, and they couldn't get him to pop up in the communicator.
Oh, you love it when a plan comes together.
So I let him know, whoever this guy was, he was not going to be in there. They had to go and they had to look at the salvage ship rosters.
And that's when the name probably popped up. And that's probably when you realized that. What's the play here?
I can also have him continue to walk, keep going.
Yeah.
I let him know, he's going to have to figure this out on his own. If he can't get it by tomorrow, just get a hold of me. I'm only about maybe 40, 45 feet from the security doors, which I have to get into. I walk forward and there's nobody there. It's empty. No, I guess I'm inventing problems for myself and I shouldn't.
That's fine.
So I left Carmody there. I'm only about maybe a 5-minute walk from getting into the science facility, knowing that I'm going to have to cross all the security doors. And I start to think, what if the first alarm was right? What if containment has been breached? What if the entity has been released? And I start to think about who it is that I know, and I know a lot of people here on the grid who could do something like that. Cudge, the list is not long.
The list is not long, but, and I'm certain that you thought about this, it's also not zero. You see, if I was the sole suspect in this investigation, then where's the fun for you? Where's the fun for you in piecing it all together? So yes, so I'm sure that you went back and looked at the records. You looked at the people with motive. You looked at the people on your list with the capacity for doing something like this. And I'm certain at that moment, you probably realized that McCluskey had just received a shipment of an unregistered firearm that had been detected by the grid security system. The kind of thing that might give him an opening to walk into containment. And, well, if you walked in and McCluskey had this gun, surely he'd be willing to use it. So what is it, detective? Why me? What was it that put you over the edge here?
As you are describing this situation, as you are describing McCluskey and the gun and grid security, Daryl Stokes is getting increasingly irritated. His jaw widens as he clenches his teeth. and his brow furrows, and he's sitting in this very fancy scientist chair, grabbing the armrests, and he's squeezing them. And he says, yes, which is why 40 feet from the entrance to the science department, I turned around and went to McCluskey's quarters.
And to think if you hadn't done that, you might have been there just in time to watch me grab poor sweet Sapphire, and you might have been able to stop me from pushing her thumb onto the thing. Just think, if you had been there 20 seconds earlier, you might have walked into an awkward looking wrestling match, but one in clear sight of the entity.
Oh, he is like, there's a vein in his forehead. I thought, wow, I'll go check. McCluskey's a little closer. My hip is really killing me. What did I do? I show up. He's in there. He's got his gun. He's polishing it like he's proud of it. He's not even trying to hide it. And I knew it wasn't him. I just knew it wasn't him. But I don't know. Maybe I've been off the beat for too long. I didn't listen to my gut. And I stayed there. I asked him questions. He didn't know anything about anything. McCluskey doesn't know anything about anything ever.
One of the first tricks of the trade is to learn how to identify a useful idiot.
I turn back around. Well, McCluskey's off the list. And I get back into the science wing. And I start the walk. And it's a couple miles. And I had a lot of time to think as I was hobbling my way down here. And I stopped at a couple of the terminals to try to see if I could get the video feed, if I could get a clean video feed, if I could get something that hadn't been tampered with.
Highly unlikely, given what an exceptional and thorough job I did.
If I wasn't so mad at you, I would be complimentary. I massively failed a roll.
Yes, love it.
Every step, every terminal, it all looks the same.
That's the sign of a job well done.
I will give it to you that you are good wherever you learned how to do it. You learned well.
And yet here you stand in front of me, which means that somewhere along the line, I made a mistake.
Cudge, you didn't kill me when I walked in the door. I know how you did it. Why? Why really?
And I think as we fade into the final section, the confrontation, I think Cudge sinks into the chair and admits, and how this is going to work is we are going to have our confrontation. We are going to roll a number of D4s equal to the number of full successes that we rolled. And then we are going to compare those numbers and see who comes out on top. That is, I got, what did you got?
I got a 7.
I have a 9.
Whoa!
Okay. Sinks into the chair and, drops the gun to the floor. Because I was scared, Daryl. I spent my life doing work for the grid that was off the grid. I spent my life being untouchable. It was, of all of the skills that I've picked up along the way, all of the languages that I've learned, all of the ways I've learned how to play people, all of the things that I have done have been in service of making me untouchable. And it touched me, and it wormed its way into my brain without even trying. I was asleep in my bed, and then suddenly there it was, and it it had its sights on me, and it had my number, and it had me dead to rights, and I was scared. I don't want someone to have that over me.
It made you human. That's what that feeling is.
And I spent a long time ensuring that I was anything but.
You're going to have a long, long time to think about this in the brig. And Daryl starts to walk towards you, and he begins to take handcuffs off of his belt.
And I think Cudge stands up. Because this is technically a getaway, but
yeah,
I think this is the most ominous big question mark getaway, and goes, I don't need to think about what I've done.
Son, go ahead.
That's for people with guilty consciences. And I think he walks back and I think kicks, sits back in the chair, kicks his foot, or kicks the edge of a computer console extremely hard, and falls through, shoves himself through the glass. You get the glass shattering of the containment tube with the open floor bottom having already been opened to evacuate the entity, and falls backwards and disappears. There was an escape hatch. I mean, theoretically, it's an escape hatch to the depths of the ocean, so it's not like there's a whole lot of places he could have gone. But
this brain has arms. He can swim.
He can swim, and the one thing I think on Daryl's mind is this motherfucker planned for everything. And this motherfucker made himself not human. Who is to, if anyone could escape from an impossible escape situation, it is the man that just stood in front of you.
Daryl looks down into the open hole in the containment unit, deep in the science, what did we call it? Science ward?
The science ward, the containment chamber?
Science wing? Yeah.
The science wing.
Yeah. Deep in the science wing of the grid, you hear, the distant rush of water. There's rain. You hear some of the glass crackle under his boots. The wind is ruffling what's left of his short white hair. And he just goes, I am too old for this.
And I think you say that, and if I can throw one closing note to end on a properly ominous note, you whisper that, and you hear in your own voice in the back of your mind, don't worry, he won't get far, and he'll have to deal with me.
Fade to black.
Fade to black. That's game. Hell yeah. Oh, that's satisfying. That's
Hell
fun.
Yeah.
That's a good vibe.
That was great.
This was great. So simple, so punchy and evocative and energetic.
I feel like this is the kind of game where if we were to play this 3 more times, it would be a way for you to game out a movie script.
I truly think that.
There are things, I think, in playing the detective in Coming second, there were things where I'm like, well, I guess I don't actually really know how to advance plot from this narrative position. Mm-hmm. But I think it's something that, doing it a couple more times. I think we would have found.
Yeah,
can figure it out. And I think probably once you figure that out, it's I could imagine you generating really powerful stories this way.
I think so. I think you're exactly right. And I think that's what made the experience so. And just the experience of knowing that you are working towards being successful, and having to sit back and think okay, I know that I'm going to overcome what has been put in front of me, but
Yeah.
like having to think about like if it doesn't go this way, it's got to go that way, and like playing in that space was so satisfying. Really, really joyful in that experience. Like it was a real it's a truism in role-playing games a lot that like you shouldn't just allow someone to keep rolling, but there is something really fun about like you're gonna get through this door.
Well, because
this door
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like it's it's a mechanic for just generating story, right?
Yeah.
So you're just learning which actual like story point, which beat is the thing that advances the story versus the thing that stands as the challenge in the story.
Yeah, really, really satisfying to see it all play out. What was your favorite moment from play?
Oh, that's a good question. What was my favorite moment from play?
I know what mine is. Mine was for sure you describing watching the feed and then seeing Scarlet scratch her nose and then seeing Scarlet scratch her nose. That popped me real hard.
That's like, yeah, that's some classic like, oh, someone's done something tricky. Like I said, I mean, I love the tropes in these sorts of movies or these sorts of stories. I really liked the like Scarlet pops out like the suddenly like, oh, someone's been in here the whole time.
Yeah.
Was really good. I also just really liked Kudge's vibe. Kudge's vibe was really great, like spot on, really good characterization, like sort of like know who that guy is, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was very easy to find the vibe of a guy that I hated and just really like ratchet up. How do I hate this man a little bit more? And then the beat at the very end when you've like, I was not expecting you to ask the question of why, which caused me to like sit back and go like, why really did this man do this? And then just landing on like, oh, because he's scared because somebody got one over on him.
It makes total sense.
It all tied it together.
And like, of course, this guy would try to justify it for himself in like geopolitical terms.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I don't like dictators. Like, nah, dude, you don't like being vulnerable.
Yeah. This was great. Thank you so much for this. This was a real joy.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, this is a lot of fun.
So real quick, before we wrap up, where can people find you and your work online?
You can find me on Blue Sky and Instagram, just at my name, at Mike Rugnetta. You can find Neverpost, my podcast about the internet, at neverpo.st. And you can find Fun City, my Shadowrun TTRPG AP pod, at Fun City Ventures on Blue Sky and at funcity.ventures. And both of those things are also, all of the places that you listen to podcasts. Hopefully they're there.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you again for this. This was magical. And for now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take a future me. Thanks, Past Me. And thanks again to Mike for coming on to the show. What you said at the end of that episode, where if we sat down and like played the same game and same structure like 3 more times, we would have like a perfect screenplay, dead on the money, because I listened to this whole episode and I was like, damn, this is a perfect like this is flawless. This is smooth and captivating, and I was overjoyed. Be sure to head to show notes to pick up your own copy of Catch Me If You Can, and be sure to check out Neverpost, Fun City Ventures, and everything else Mike's got going on. And be sure to follow Mike on Blue Sky at MikeRugnetta.com. You can also find us on pretty much whichever social media you prefer, at Party of One Pod or Jeff Stormer, depending. And if you enjoy the show and you want to support it, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Subscribe to our newsletter at buttondown.email/partyofonepodcast. And join our Discord community at bit.ly/partyofonediscord. You can support us financially at patreon.com/JeffStormer or Ko-fi.com/JeffStormer. You can give us a nice iTunes review, shout us out to a friend, give us some love on social media. You can buy some Party of One merch at bit.ly/partyofonemerch. Or if you're looking for more great podcast content, you can check out All My Fantasy Children, which is a character creation, storytelling, and world building podcast that I make with my best friend in the world, Aaron Catano Saez. We take a listener submitted prompt and spin it into an original fantasy character, populating a shared universe one story at a time. You can also check out Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast, which is an actual play about a heartless witch, a cozy house, and the many people making their homes inside. Both of those you can find wherever you get your podcasts. Party of One is, as always, produced and edited by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. Music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Mega Ran featuring the D&D Sluggers, and the Party of One logo is by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, coming on the show as a guest, or about press coverage of the show, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And unless I am mistaken, that is all we do here. So until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.